basically, whenever we go into what's called the fight, flight, or freeze response, any kind of free or fear response, if we're triggered by anything that brings up literally any fear within our body, right, we go into that kind of crisis mode. We have cortisol pumping through our bodies and all that sort of thing. So this can come from past traumas. It can come from, even just, fear. It's basically the ego's way of protecting us because we needed this, centuries ago when we were living in the wild and we were trying to, survive in the wild. Against animals and starvation and all that kind of thing. So that's what the ego is for. And it served its purpose back then, but not so much now. So, but I mean, our body still responds the same way. So people with, PTSD, anxiety disorders, things like this, and regular everyday people, whenever you're faced with anything that kind of brings up fear, there could be lots of fears. There could be psychological fears, things like fear of rejection or fear of, judgment, fear of opinion of others, fear of like standing up in front of a crowd, things like that. So there's lots of kind of fears, but basically whenever we have this response in our body, it throws our whole nervous system out of whack. I've said this in another video too, that when we actually go to sleep and we wake up in the morning, it is actually kind of traumatizing on our body. So our nervous system, is out of whack. This is why it's really good to do deep breathing exercises in the morning. And I believe that was the video that I talked about that in. But I just, this is something that's been coming up a lot lately with my clients, to be able to regulate your nervous system. The reason this is so important is because if we don't do this, and let me backtrack. When we're in that fight, flight, or freeze response, when we're in that fear response, we can't really think straight because what happens is the blood is like kind of taken away from your prefrontal cortex and you go into, just being very primal. You go into the primal part of your brain. So that means just survival. Right? So you go into survival mode essentially. So this is why people that, suffer from PTSD and things like that from past traumas tend to have this happen regularly, even though the trauma isn't happening still. Okay. So nervous system regulation is doing anything that can kind of calm this down. Deep breathing exercises is really good, but something else is